Alright, to get the obvious out of the way, yeah, this video is super late. To put a very long story short, this weekend was a nightmare and a half. You see, my family scheduled a trip to Gatlinburg, Gatlinburg, Tennessee, since that's a vacation spot that's always fun to go to. Well, right after they scheduled the days, it was one thing after another. The weather forecast warned that we were supposed to get some really bad storms, which there have been a lot of those in the past few years. On top of that, our relative had a medical issue that required a hospital trip. My family tried to reschedule, since obviously it would have been a really bad time to go, but Booking.com actively refused to push it back a week. And if they canceled, they would lose their deposit for the hotel. So I just went down there to make sure the damn thing was actually used. Well, while I was gone, those storms that we were worried about did in fact blow through, and they wreaked some havoc. The yard got hit with a lightning bolt, and it fried a few things at the house, including the sub pumps to the basement, meaning everything got flooded. The basement I use as an office to work on videos. So that's fun. As soon as I got back, I found out that the office was flooded, an outlet was burned out, and I lost my computer monitor. Had to spend some time cleaning things up, fixing up the basement, and setting up a new workstation to get back on track. It's been a rough few days. Upside, everything is basically fixed up to where I can still work on videos, meaning we can finally talk about the new Berserk chapter. You guys think you've been itching to talk about it? Well, how do you think I felt? This chapter is one hell of a rabbit hole that has some drastic revelations, major implications, and a massive hint that we're pretty damn close to the endgame. The last two chapters were about Guts' rise, how he was able to regain his strength and prepare him for the trials ahead. Well, now we see the opposite end of the spectrum. Yep, it's time we finally go back to Falconia. Last we left off there, Casca was not having a good time. She was essentially brainwashed and kept as a silent doll, mindlessly going through a routine while subconsciously fighting to come back to her senses. We didn't really know why Griffith and his guys did this to her. What was the purpose to just keep Casca around like a prop? Well, this chapter actually explains a bit about that. Not every single answer, but more than enough to get an understanding of the larger picture here. And to put it simply, Griffith has been a very naughty boy. I mean, we already knew that, but now that he's pissing off a lot more forces than we realized with his antics. And it's such a big deal that I'm going to do something I haven't done in a bit. Yep, a melodramatic chapter transition text. So let's dive into the new chapter and see what kind of trouble is brewing in paradise. The chapter opens up on Casca. She's mindlessly walking towards Griffith as he stands by the world tree. Despite the agony of her brand, she's still pushing forward. It could be that Elaine is back in control, so Casca is trying to get close to Griffith because she's actually trying to find her son again, the Moonlight Child. Well, as this is going on, we see that Shrike is in fact in Falconia. She's scouting through the city, amazed at the sights around her. The people of the city are gathered around kinda reminds her of stars in the night sky, and unfortunately she has to find a single person among all of them. Despite her worries, she does seem to sense Casca's presence. As Shrike is searching, Sonia notices her astral form. She now knows her friend is in the city. Looking up the world tree, she tries to spot Shrike in the sky. Mule thinks that she just noticed a flock of birds flying up in the air, remarking that there's been more and more of them lately. Birds are slowly returning to the skies. But Sonia doesn't look happy. In fact, she looks a tad sinister. She tells Mule they need to go, and the two walk through the palace, still populated by Griffith's army. As they walk past a group of maids talking amongst themselves, but that's not an issue. They're just maids. Instead, they go straight for Griffith. Mule kneels before him and scolds Sonia for not doing the same, but the little girl simply stares at Griffith with a smile. The man himself is silent and stern-faced. Sonia finally kneels, and Mule reports the news from the recent campaign. And as it turns out, things have not been going as smoothly as they wanted. Yeah, for the first time in a while, they've been running into problems, which, that's weird. Everything up to this point has been such a steamroll that this recent band of issues has actually been a noteworthy event. Yeah, they've been able to kill monsters and claim territory just fine, but they haven't actually been able to win over new people like they have before. In fact, more and more people have been breaking away from them. Former kingdoms have either become full bandit nations, or worse, traveled to the land of the Kushan. Yeah, some territories would rather go to the kingdom that just tried to genocide the continent than Falconia. They even make mention that a good number of the refugees believe in the old faiths, like before the Holy See. It could be they know something the Falconia people don't. Mule is shaken by this, the idea that there's a growing amount that just don't want to join Falconia, because it means other nations are gaining people, and more people means more power. Power that could potentially threaten their kingdom. Despite this, Griffith seems unworried. Sonya just writes the refugees off as just stumbling blocks on the road to progress and saying they haven't done anything wrong, which, why would you say that, Sonya? Do you potentially know something you're not willing to talk about? Regardless, Mule thinks her comment is insensitive. These are still people. Potential enemies down the line? Yes, but still human beings they're talking about here. Griffith says that they're simply scared. It's a natural reaction to such a sudden shift in the world, but fear can be a very dangerous thing, since that can lead to a different emotion, anger. They would eventually want to find something to project their rage onto, like a prosperous nation that has everything that they don't. But his words seem to be aimed at Mule as well, taking note that he's obviously bothered by what's going on. Mule realizes this and remains in awe of Griffith, seeing him as a man capable of seeing situations in a completely different way from anyone else, even blaming himself that he's simply not enlightened like Griffith is able to be. He promises to show them how to view situations like he's able to, but if he does, the possibility of war is still there. Sonya for some reason just runs off, claiming that they need to find some more enlightenment. As she runs, Sonya notices someone, Casca, still writhing in pain in her sleepwear. Mule tries to help her, but Sonya tells him to just go, even claiming that she's just a maid. And if that's not suspicious enough, we see a clear scowl on her face. We're going to talk about this later, but this is pretty damn revealing. Another big revelation is what we see now that Casca and Griffith are alone. Griffith clutches his chest, sensing that Guts has realized something, which, does that mean that he could sense that Guts left the stupa? Because if so, yeah, we'll talk about what this probably means later. Still, Casca sees Griffith approach her, and she is terrified. He's standing right in front of her, and she's slinking away like a cat, even if he's just a few feet away. Her brand pouring blood as he tries to ask what she's doing there. But then something happens. The shadows behind him explode. That little bit of darkness that fall behind the Hawk of Light. And it's forming something. Something powerful. Powerful enough to cause Casca to clutch her chest in agony. Griffith simply watches as the shadows form into individual shapes. Very familiar shapes. Yeah, they're back. After over 20 years, we see all members of the God Hand together again. The real ones. These are not illusions or representations. It's them. And Griffith isn't happy. What? Yeah, he even tries to raise his cape to hide Casca away from them. What the fuck is happening? Well, Slan explains that, at least a little bit. They decide to check in on Griffith, curious about what he's been up to, and they are not happy with him. Yeah, they're actually pretty pissed off at Griffith. Turns out his entire quest to reshape the world and build his kingdom, they see it as a massive waste of time. It's all a lie. He unleashed monsters on the world, and now he's leading an army of monsters to kill them, painting himself as a big grand hero. To the God Hand, it's the antics of a child. They're not proud of him or happy about the merging of the realms. They're there to mock Griffith, saying that Griffith isn't a real king. He's built up one massive facade that will crumble. Ultimately, he's the king of the world's largest dollhouse. Griffith is pissed at their words, raising his hand to banish away the shadows. They leave and scatter away in the light, just in time as the maids we saw earlier rush towards Casca, frantically trying to check her condition and lead her back to her room. As Griffith watches her leave, he hears one last message from the God Hand. This is what he wanted, his own kingdom. But now, that kingdom is his prison. So yeah, this is kind of a massive deal. As it turns out, Griffith has been naughty to more than just his own friends. Even the God Hand aren't happy with his recent actions, which actually kind of makes some sense. We don't know what the ultimate goal of the God Hand truly is. We can guess, but Griffith has basically only focused on the physical world, the realm of humanity. And the God Hand explicitly don't care about that. They live in the deeper realms of the astral world. That's their focus. Humanity is their tool, nothing more. It's obvious their agenda is far larger than what Griffith is currently dealing with. And yeah, this is a game changer. For years, all the theories around Griffith's plan had been one where we assumed that the guy was working with the God Hand, that they've been helping behind the scenes to set up something very nasty. But now we find out that, no, they have not been helping him. In fact, they're disgusted at his antics, saying it like a child playing pretend, even referring to him as a prisoner in his own kingdom. Yeah, in the end, this guy is truly alone. Griffith has nothing. No real friends, no real bond, not even a real kingdom. It's all an illusion. His followers are essentially brainwashed. The apostles only follow due to his authority as a god hand, and he had to rewrite the very idea of reality to make him the winner. Nothing is truly his. It's all given to him or cheated into existence, and only now is he starting to realize this. And the god hand not being happy with him is a pretty massive hand grenade of a reveal, since that raises the obvious question: are they still on his side, or are they starting to work against him? All of a sudden they're running into humans that are bucking against Falconia. It's actually been teased for a bit. You remember that chapter that had the meeting with the nobles in Falconia, talking about how some districts are turning to crime, and Griffith's miracles are starting to lose their effectiveness on certain people? It could be the guy is slowly losing his gift, to be able to make others instinctively loyal to him, since it went from a few people in Falconia to entire remnants of fallen nations. Griffith assumed that it was simply fear due to the sudden change in the world, and they may not be completely wrong, but what if it's more to that? What if there's something else brewing that he can't control? What if the God Hand are reconsidering the deal? Remember, Guts and Casca are still alive, the last two sacrifices of his own invocation of doom, and their survival has had some drastic consequences for Griffith. Not just that his mortal enemy is back and ready to stand against him, not just that he united the Kushan and Elfhelm mages together to ready for war, not just that he failed to destroy the Kushan nation permanently, but the Moonlight Child's existence is causing some problems, since now, Griffith doesn't want to kill them. Hell, he outright protected Casca from the God Hand, and he looked almost proud that Guts was able to finish the ritual in the stupa. That last shred of humanity Griffith has left is actively fucking with him now, since we've never seen what happens if a demon protects the person they damned as a sacrifice. Not just fail to kill, but actively prevent from dying. That's a breach of contract and a half, and there's no way that doesn't spell out drastic ramifications for him. And raises another question. Does the God Hand know about the Moonlight Child? Are they aware of the presence inside of Griffith's body? Is that why they're so mad at him? Calling Griffith a child because he actually shares the body with a literal child now? In fact, what if he's been impacting Griffith's thoughts more than we realize? Despite Griffith being a cold-blooded demon responsible for all sorts of horrors and evil, ever since he's been resurrected, we've never seen him do anything truly evil to them in a long time. Even Golden Age Griffith orchestrated the death of a man and his son. Griffith hasn't really done anything on the same level for a while. Hell, this isn't even the first time we've seen him rush to protect Casca. Sure, merging in the realms, pretty bad. Blowing up Elfhelm, massive dick move. But really think about that. 2 examples. Hundreds of chapters, but we can only really think about 2 examples off the top of our heads of him directly fucking with stuff. It seems like the Moonlight Child might have influenced him longer than we thought. The guy seems genuinely interested in helping his people, wanting orphanages, more territory for settlements, and dedicating to his dream of letting humanity prosper. Now, this is not to say Griffith is a secret good guy or anything like that. Hell, I'm saying the exact opposite. All the good parts of Griffith are coming from the Moonlight Child. He's affecting the guy's subconscious and pushing him to do things that he wouldn't normally do or care about. It's definitely a tug-of-war. Elfhelm didn't burn to the ground from a mining accident, know what I mean? But it seems like they're point-blank addressing that Griffith isn't in full control of himself. He's not just a prisoner in his own kingdom, he's a prisoner in his own body as well. The Moonlight Child is affecting his mind to the point that we don't actually know how much of Griffith's decisions have been his for a long time. Now, it's not like a literal mind swap. No, the guy would just full on turn into the Moonlight Child when it comes time for that. But the presence of the child in his subconscious could hint towards a larger idea. Remember, a big aspect of Berserk is the idea of causality, consequences to actions, and the idea of details coming back to haunt you. In particular, we learned that Guts had the ability to shift those details bit by bit, to the point that eventually it's a completely different situation and outcome. What if the Moonlight Child can do the same thing? You know, a being literally born in the lair between life and death, sorta like his father, and now he's a full-blown spiritual being fully attuned to the astral world? What if he's been subtly doing that very thing to Griffith, bit by bit affecting his journey and putting him on a path that the guy can't pull back from? At any point, Griffith could have killed Guts and Casca. He could have just let Casca be crushed to death all the way back during the fight at the Hill of Swords. The Moonlight Child went out of his way to save Guts more than once. And we know why he was doing it. They're his parents and he does seem to love them. But we don't actually know what he was doing. Like, sure, he was saving their lives. But what if the Moonlight Child knows a lot more than we do? Hell, he's a being purely from the astral world. He could perceive time and causality completely different from humanity. What if the little guy has his own revenge plan? It's definitely something I was thinking about reading this chapter. Just as Griffith knows the Moonlight Child is sharing his form, the other way around is very possible as well. And the reveal with the God Hand clarifies another detail that was brought up earlier. Roxas. Yeah, remember him? He was out of nowhere resurrected and taken to the Kushan Empire, where he was supposedly killed by Salat. It was mentioned by Farnese that it felt like Quillfoth was trying to force its way into reality when Roxas attacked, since creatures like trolls could appear and start butchering people. Well, now we can guess that was probably more right than Farnese realized. Maybe that wasn't a plot by Griffith. That could have been the God Hand themselves trying to take out the Kushans. Remember, the ultimate end goal is to annihilate all magic users across the world, since they can affect the astral world and potentially stand against the God Hand. Maybe that failed assault is why they were pissed with Griffith. Maybe they noticed he's spending too much time in Falconia when he's supposed to be hunting down magic users. Hell, we've never seen his army perform a witch hunt since the realms merged. Yeah, Griffith himself destroyed Elfhelm, the war demons attacked Flora, but we've never seen anyone like Mule or Sonia tie anyone to a stake for being a witch. While the blows from the two incidents were massive, they weren't fatal. The Elfhelm mages were able to be rescued by the Kushans, now studying their mages to learn their style of magic. And Flora is now a daemon, living in the astral world, and was even the one who helped Guts cleanse himself during the Stupa ritual. It seems like Griffith has been shirking his responsibilities a tad too much lately. Sure, the idea of evil said they can do whatever they want, but clearly the plan is a group consensus. And now Falconia is getting in the way of what the other God Hand want to do. There's a lot of different ideas being thrown around now, and each one's more major than the previous. But there's a certain wildcard factor I want to talk about. Sonia. Yeah, she's gonna be a problem. For a long time, they kept Sonia pretty vague as a character. She doesn't seem like a bad person, just a naive girl dipping her toes into a world that she really shouldn't. But we got a few hints now, this kid might be worse than we thought. She's not just a blind, dumb girl. She knows what's going on, and seems like she's got a darker side to her than what she's been showing others. See, Sonia's been obsessed with Griffith. Who he is, what he stands for, she is the embodiment of a blind white sheep. But she's shown signs that she knows a lot more than any other Randy in Falconia, comparing his war demons to dragons when she talked with Shrike, hinting that she knows they're different than anyone else, saying it doesn't matter that demons were actually demons during the final battle with Ganishka, kinda hinting that she already knew ahead of time and kinda just didn't care. And also just straight up becoming Griffith's top psychic, meaning she could just read everyone in the army's mind. She even somehow knew that Casca would come to Falconia, since she was waiting outside with the other war demons when Griffith and Zod returned from Elfhelm. That scene in particular flashed in my mind during the scene where Mule wanted to help Casca, and Sonia referred to her as just a maid. Because Mule saw Griffith holding her when he got back. He was there when they returned. He clearly knows Casca is more important than Sonia is saying. So why did she think that lie would work? And that led to a pretty grim idea. What if Mule has more of an affinity to escaping the brainwashing than others? What if Sonia knows that? Mule was pretty riled the whole chapter, struggling with the idea that others could just refuse to join them, even considering the eventual consequences it could have. He's clearly a deeper thinker than we've seen. Hell, Sonia looked pretty pissed when she noticed Shrike and Falconia. It could be she's scared that the hold Griffith has on others could potentially shatter, and Sonia is struggling to keep the illusion going. It's safe to assume she's the one smothering Casca's thoughts. She is an exceptionally powerful psychic, and something is messing with Casca's mind. Hell, maybe she was scowling at her earlier because Casca is actively fighting her influence off. She realizes Casca is still subconsciously trying to resist her powers and is causing trouble for Griffith. This could lead to something pretty bad, since Sonia might get tired of it and try to rectify the issue. She's already pretty jealous of Charlotte and not shy about spelling out her displeasure whenever Griffith pays attention to the princess instead of her. But at least Charlotte has her role to play. She can't be touched because Griffith needs the princess. But what about Casca, this random stranger that Griffith just suddenly brought home one day? If Casca doesn't have a role to play, then Sonia might consider her expendable, meaning she could fly a tad too close to the sun, because Griffith, whether she knows it or not, needs Casca. He doesn't know why, he knows he shouldn't, but the Moonlight Child doesn't want anyone touching his mom. If Sonia tries anything, then that little girl is not going to have a good time. And actually, where is Charlotte? We've seen Griffith, Casca, Sonia, Mule, the war demons, but where is the princess? It's strange she hasn't been around lately, especially since Griffith brought Casca to Falconia, a woman she has met personally and remembers, then apparently ordered the servants to treat as a noblewoman. You get the idea, a lot of shit's been thrown into a tailspin, and the questions just keep piling up. Hell, I haven't even mentioned Zod yet, and the possibilities around him, since it's possible the guy might not be as loyal to Griffith as we thought. Remember, he only cares about finding the strongest, and considering the God Hand directly mocked Griffith to his face and accused him of being a fraud, is he the strongest anymore? Or worse, think about it like this. What if Zod wasn't actually working for him? We got that tease from the chapter following Casca where he stood away from the rest of the war demons, looking frustrated and impatient. It could be he's got his own ideas, and it's possible he's never been on Griffith's side. What if he's frustrated because he's feeling the same anger that the God Hand has? Griffith is too busy playing in his dollhouse to get the real work done. Like I said, questions after questions, just one thing after another. This was a big deal of a chapter, since it recontextualizes a lot of what we've seen before. The knowledge that Griffith is actually getting on the God Hand's nerves leave open more than a few possibilities. It seems like he's been doing nothing but making enemies. Even the humans he wants to integrate into his kingdom are turning against him. The four guardian spirits are against him, magic users of the world are against him, even the God Hand are now turning on him. Funny enough, the only people he has left are the two that he left behind, Guts and Casca. The only people he has any sort of true bond with are the ones that want nothing to do with him at best, or dedicated their entire lives to killing him. He's happy that Guts was cleansed, even though he knows what it means. That Guts can potentially now stand up to him, can now potentially kill him. He shields Casca from the God Hand, the woman he kidnapped and gave this luxurious life in Falconia, even though she's terrified of the man, seeing him as this irredeemable monster that isn't even human, just a creature that ruined her life, the one that raped her, drove her insane, killed her comrades, constantly tortures the man she loves, and stole her child from her. Griffith is doing the exact thing that Guts realized all the way back in Millennium Falcon War. He's trying to force something back together even though it's never going to be the same ever again. He tried to resurrect the Band of the Hawk, he tried to go back to his dream of building a kingdom, he tried to recruit Rickard again, but it's not the old days anymore. They can't ever be that again. And the only one that doesn't get that is Griffith. The more he desperately clings to the fantasy, the more it burns down around him. It's a slow burn right now, just a bit of smoke and some sparks, but it's building, bit by bit. And with all the factions that are in play right now, it can go a few different ways. The big one being, what if Griffith gets the Ozymandias treatment, realizing he is not the King of Kings? Ye Mighty will not look on his work in despair, and his grand kingdom will end up as nothing but the decay of a colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sand stretching far away. Griffith declared war on the universe itself, and he's learning too late it can fight fucking dirty. The whole time Guts has been helped by others and given a new wind of strength, Griffith has never been more alone, and he's damned to lose more as time goes on. He made a deal with the devil, and it's time to pay the interest. Yeah, not gonna lie, I love this chapter. I kinda loved it. Guts' comeback was dope, but you could tell it wasn't as fleshed out as they wanted it to be. One of those ideas that Miura wasn't able to finish or jot down before his death. This chapter felt much more fleshed out, to the degree that I think a lot of the specifics around Griffith's downfall are already set in stone. Now it's looking like it could be downright Shakespearean. A man defined by ambition and betrayal is done in by his nature to betray those around him. He betrayed the Band of the Hawk, he betrayed Guts and Casca, he betrayed his own humanity, and now it's looking like he might have betrayed the God Hand. Unintentionally, but it still happened. And the God Hand aren't exactly a forgiving sort. And the idea of the God Hand being pissed at Griffith is interesting since it hints at a vulnerability. If the theory is right and they wanted the Kushan Empire destroyed, then they were defeated. Not just that their plan was impacted, but outright stopped. They couldn't get the objective done and were forced back into the depths of the astral world. Their anger comes from the fact this is now proven, since if the mages realize this, the snowball begins. Not just Griffith is at risk of losing, but the whole God Hand themselves could be screwed. That little stumble on the road could lead to an avalanche. Causality is not just a tool for evil, it can be used for good as well. The evil make their own decisions and have their own consequences. Hell, we've seen that a few times in the story already. Yeah, we're close to the endgame now. How close? Still not sure, but definitely feels like we're closer to the end than the beginning at this point. A lot closer. Guts got his upgrade, Griffith has realized he's been living with a downgrade. Now there's still a lot of ground to cover, so much so that we're still in the territory of tens of chapters towards the ending. My personal bet, around 50 or so. That's the number that popped up in my head. No idea if it's true, but feels right. Regardless, this chapter was definitely a thinker, from the implications, the details, to just what it means going forward. It's more payoff, but to elements we didn't even really think about, which was kind of brilliant. Like, we took Griffith building his kingdom as just a matter-of-fact thing. We thought that's just what the God Hand wanted him to do. put all of the humanity under one banner with the sort of Antichrist vibe he gave off. As it turns out, that was not it. It was really just his own childish fantasy. He's been LARPing the whole time, building up his personal gilded cage that closed around him before he even realized it. And that definitely clicks with me. You see, the reveal that Griffith is stuck in his own personal hell, and it's just gonna get worse for him, I love that. A lot of people mention that they really like the chapter 364, the one that ends with the reveal that Griffith and the Moonlight Child are sharing the same body. It's been widely agreed that it's a fantastic ending point for the story if they decide not to continue it, because you discover Griffith is suffering, sharing the same body as the child, as he's forced to feel the emotions and yearning that he became a demon to run away from. And honestly, that's not a bad take. But this chapter to me kind of answers a hole that I felt with the idea that 364 would have been the real ending. Yeah, Griffith was suffering, but he still had everything he wanted. His kingdom, his friends, his woman. Griffith was on top of the world for a bit. The reveal that no, he did not in fact have these things is just perfect. It was all a lie. Not just the means for how he got it, but that all these things can easily be taken away whenever the God Hand or any other party that's not playing the same rules desire. Because here's something to consider. There's still Pandemonium, the arena that Griffith set up for the war demons to sate their urges against the various magical creatures they captured. They're all in one place, and Griffith just pissed off their bosses. Sure, technically he's one of their bosses as well, but that raises another question. What's going to happen if they get conflicting orders? What if they're told not to listen to Griffith anymore? That he's now persona non grata among demons? The story began with Griffith betraying his army for power, so how fitting would it be if in the end, his army goes on to betray him? That Griffith's supposed friends now consider him to be a rock in the road to brush aside. What if they decide that the Hawk of Light is better as a martyr than a king? It's something to think about. But do you know what else you should think about? Gamer subs, use code TAL at checkout. Use the code. Use the code. God tried to strike me down with lightning and water, and I'm not gonna lie, God's got hands. Use the code. But yeah, we're calling it here. Very good chapter. Honestly, I'd say it's one of the best in a while. I just liked everything about it, from how it advanced the plot, fleshed out details we've been hankering for, and let's sit back and think about earlier events in the story. However, this is it. The last of the 3 new chapters that were announced. Now we're back to not knowing when we're going to get the next batch. It's fucking heartbreaking, not gonna lie. At least we know that Berserk is working its way to the finish line at a pretty good pace. It's not perfect, there's been ups and downs, but it still feels like Berserk, and that makes me happy. Hopefully the next batch is sooner rather than later. It would be dope to get like 5 or 6 chapters in 1 year. Man, that hurts to say. One Piece is chugging along like a fucking beast, and here we are begging for scraps. But it is what it is. Until next time, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys.
Now
Hey, loser. Do you want a shirt? Do you want a t-shirt? I have shirts now. Look in the description for a link to a t-shirt you can buy. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll kill your family. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll poison your dog. If you don't buy the t-shirt, you're going to be the only person in town that does not have a t-shirt. Everyone's going to look at you funny. There's going to be social consequences to not having one of these t-shirts. I am now making express threats of violence against you if you do not buy my t-shirt. I will call the police, tell them how you're not buying my shirt. They're going to plant crack in your house, and they're going to arrest you and then beat you up in a jail cell. Buy my shirt.